Hey geeks, do you love comics, collectibles, and TCG? Well, here at Cardboard Cave, we have the place for you. Pass by Kapitan Granuja Comics and Games and find all your favorite geeky items there. Look for them at Facebook or Instagram or call them at 787-659-7003. A store blessed by Nicole Bolas.
Hey everybody, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another episode of Cardboard Cave podcast. John is not with us today because he's doing another podcast. That traitor, that heathen, but it's okay. We got stuff. We got juicy WOTC stuff to talk to you guys today about. So let's start with JP, our favorite mono blue hater.
Mono blue hater.
Yeah, mono blue hater. Mono blue hater. Yep. He hates blue all the time. Every blue card that he gets, he just breaks it in half. You know, he's like Kaiba with the blue cards. Yes.
Actually, that was like I was actually Kaiba with Huntsberger.
Yeah. No. I mean, to be fair, he literally told me before the podcast started that beautiful Urza that he shucked away for a few lands, non-basic lands, you know, just those like $2 lands. That's what he chucked them for.
Oh yeah, $2 lands.
He can now make a 99 deck filled with lands instead of an Urza. Beautiful Urza. But you know, what can you do? So how you doing, JP? All good?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Okay.
So what do you got?
So I was gonna be like, we should talk about. So Plus Kenobi did a video recently where it's something that I was talking about for a while now.
You've been like
yes,
saying about this a lot.
And I guess he channeled my energy, and he's a better content creator. He has a lot of more subs, so obviously now he gets the word out about potentially something that a lot of people have probably been thinking about is this whole notion that treasures are becoming something kind of overwhelming. It's happening basically in every set. We're seeing a couple of treasure cards. And in the last few main standard sets, we've seen a bunch of influx of treasure cards. To the point where you start arguing, like, is WotC kind of want to make it like an evergreen mechanic, sort of? Like, what are they trying to go? So I thought that we could discuss this since, Plus Kenobi did it, and he did a beautiful breakdown. So guys, you should check out his video. I'm going to try to go over kind of like his history, because what he did was he did like a historial of all the treasure cards starting from Ixalan, which was the first time they introduced the mechanic, all the way up to New Capenna, and kind of like he was kind of breaking down how many were in every set and how logistically WotC was justifying the new mechanic until it kind of went bonkers, and now basically every color has one or more cards that have to deal with treasures. So it's interesting to see this evolution in such a technically short amount of time. I mean, Ixalan was like 5 years ago, essentially. So it's been the last 5 years with all the big changes and stuff. Now introducing this new mechanic, it's kind of interesting to see the development. So yeah, I'm going to put then up on the screen the whole layout of all the. It is 142 cards currently in Magic that have the treasure mechanic. They can put one or more treasures. They put treasures if you attack, if you counter a spell. There are many different ways of you can make treasures. At the beginning, it used to be Ixalan, and it used to only be associated with pirates, which, as you know, makes sense. It's pirates. They're hunting for treasure. They're looking for the booty. They're looking for a chest and all that, and generally they had to attack, they had to sacrifice something, but it had to be pirates most of the time doing this, or spells that were adjacent to pirates. And most of the time, and we can check right now in Ixalan, they were relegated to black, red, and blue, which is Grixis colors. So JP, what do you think about that?
So I feel like it was like properly flavorful for treasure to be a mechanic for pirates.
Yes.
There is something later on I want to mention about like what Maro said about treasures in the color pie, and for specific colors, because I feel like some colors should not get it, and if they do, it should be harder.
Hmm.
And I do disagree a bit in the design philosophy with Mark Rosewater, but he's been designing the game for a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
We could take that as he has more experience, but also as he's made more mistakes than I have.
Yeah.
So even I'm definitely not comparing myself to Mark Rosewater, but
Hmm.
I do have something I disagree with.
Okay.
I do feel like Grix's colors is perfect for the mechanic.
Hmm.
I do like it in white though. And
Yes.
there's a specific card.
Oh yeah, definitely. So as you can see, we're scrubbing through, a lot of these cards up on the screen. I'm sorry, people who are listening to us. I'm just pointing down some of the first cards that were introduced in Ixalan. Generally, they were relegated to blue, to black, and to red. There's some outliers like Vraska's Relic Seeker, which is all you'll remember. It was a very good card in Standard when it came out. It's black and green, but it's basing it off the black portion of the card that it justifies having the treasure mechanic built in.
And also the story of the card, because Vraska at the moment was a pirate.
Exactly. So it's justified by the lore, it's justified by the backstory of Vraska and what's happening in the plains. So she's still a pirate, so it makes sense. When Rivals of Ixalan, which was the next set, they kept pushing just a little bit further into, as I said previously, Grixis colors, but then we have some introductions to white, which is what JP's arguing, with the introduction of stuff like Smothering Tide, which is a amazing staple card used in every white. If you have white, you're running Smothering Tide. So what do you think brought about this slight shift or slight experimentation into the other two colors that weren't being touched upon in Ixalan?
So what I think is exactly what I was going to mention
Yes.
on the color pie.
Yeah.
So they realize, okay, this mechanic is pretty damn good.
Mhm.
What is this doing for the color pie, and what colors should have access to it?
Mhm.
Morrow mentioned that red has always been the primary color to produce treasures.
Yes.
Red has had rituals and mana producing cards throughout the entirety of the game.
Yes.
So they started adding even more.
Mhm.
Uh, White. He said that white should get access to the mechanic, but it should be at a cost to an opponent. They realized, because they wanted to be a bit more to the roots of what what that white does,
Mhm.
and that's why it's taxing. But kind of pushed it a bit too much,
Yeah.
and now we have like this amazing card that is Smothering Tithe.
Yes. Of course.
On the contrary, is that there's also like blue.
Mhm.
He thought that blue had too much access to treasures,
Yes.
because even though it's flavorful for pirates
Mhm.
to do so, the problem being you're giving blue access to more mana and a way to produce mana.
Yeah.
And that is not something blue should be able to do as easily.
Yes.
Blue has to jump through a lot of hoops. And cards in blue that add mana happen to be broken.
True.
Isn't that right, Mister I Play Urza?
Yeah, that's why. Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, yeah.
And there's also the the Grand Arbiter is the Pili Pala combo.
Yes.
It's an artifact with a blue creature, and they can add infinite mana.
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
So it's a problem when blue makes mana,
Mhm.
because they usually combine it with other things and make it too strong.
Yes.
Now, he mentioned one of the problems in balancing is that black gets access to treasure making a bit too easily, and that's a
Mhm.
mistake they're avoiding to make.
Yes.
So, because you can see right there on the screen, There's a little card there called Pitiless Plunger,
Yes.
and that card is very strong.
Yes.
Pitiless Plunger is a 3 and a black for a 1/4 human pirate. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with the treasure ability of sacrifice this artifact and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
It's very easy
This
to
card,
abuse.
this card does not say non-token,
Yep.
and token creatures make treasures,
Mhm.
and that's where the problem lies because
Yeah.
it's way too easy to abuse.
Mhm.
In the new set, they added a white black card that is
Yeah.
basically Pitiless Plunder but fixed.
Yes. And we'll start talking and seeing the cards as they evolve. We're gonna start seeing how they're slowly trying to adjust treasure so it doesn't become overwhelmingly broken. But at first, since it was a new mechanic, they were playing it out, testing it out, we ended up with stuff like Smothering Tide and Pitiless Plunder.
Now, I mentioned white because it wants the stacks. Mentioned red, that's the primary color to make them.
Yep.
Mentioned blue, that should not have it as easily, and
Sure.
black, that should not make it as easily.
Yes.
This is where my design philosophy would differ from Mark Rosewater.
Mhm.
He feels like the secondary color to add treasure should be green.
No,
Because
that's
green is the color of mana.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what makes more mana? Treasures.
Yeah.
I do disagree with that design philosophy.
Mhm.
Mostly for the fact that it's very green has always been a very non-artifact like color. It
Mhm.
usually has a lot of artifact removal.
Yep.
Usually has a lot of artifact destruction, and the set it just feels out of place. The reason why it feels good in red is because it has the artifact synergies. It feels
Mhm.
too strong in blue because there's too much artifact synergy.
Yes.
Black can abuse it with the die trigger, with the Pitiless Plunder, and Smothering Tide is his own problem. But
Yeah.
green, I feel like green should not have it, or at least not have it in the strength that it has it.
Yes.
So,
Granted, the strength came later because at
The
first they weren't even
yeah.
considering it.
They weren't, which is like surprising to me.
Yeah. So as you can see, after Rivals and then after obviously Guilds of Ravnica, because I believe this was Guilds of Ravnica that came out, they started playing around with it in Commander. So then we get Darkseid Extortionist, which is a very broken, very expensive card, but one that it's very fitting for red, even though it's again pushing very hard into the treasure mechanic. Then they added a few cards here and there, a few dinosaurs, few dragons, which dragons, it makes sense, and it's a
Yes.
prelude for what comes later, of course. So
It
going down the
becomes-
list, going down, we had obviously more pirates in what was Double Masters with what Jumpstart. There was a few dragons that also made some treasures. There was even one of the, secret layers. Negan, he makes treasures too. They're obviously playing with this a lot, but it's getting to the point where at first you don't see it, but when you start seeing that basically every set has one or two little treasure cards, one or two little cards that make a treasure, just sporadically, it starts adding up. The other big the other big push that it had was in Commander Legends, our first iteration of Commander Legends, because they introduced a lot of pirates again in the Grixis colors. And again, as you know, if there's pirates, there's going to be treasures. And then that's when we started seeing our first big problem, as JP mentioned, giving access to treasures in blue creates broken ass cards like Hold Breacher, which when I saw that, I bought it basically instantaneously because I'm like, that is an insane card that I must have in every blue deck that I own. And after a while, it got banned, rightfully so, because blue already has most of the good things that you need in Magic to win. You can counter spells, you can draw so much, and all you need is good mana fixing or good mana to be able to do everything. Because the thing that stops blue is that you don't have mana to do everything. But at the second, you are able to draw lots and create a lot of treasure tokens or create a lot of mana you're going to automatically win, which is the problem that Hull Breacher had. It was basically having a mechanic that's more fitting in white be given to a blue card.
That's interesting you mentioned that.
Yes.
The reason why this card would be interesting in white is because of what I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
as they wanted white treasure making to be a stacks or a taxing effect.
Yeah.
And Hull Breacher taxes the hand.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if Hull Breacher was a white card, it would not be banned.
Yes, I agree.
It would be broken as shit,
But it wouldn't
but
be
it
bad.
wouldn't be banned.
Yep. I agree. You would need to
I
make
mean,
it
it's not like you can
Azorius.
keep banning things from the color that's been like screwed over the most, especially in like recent Magic memory. And by the way, hey everyone.
Hi. Yeah, that's a fair argument. Yeah, I like JP said, I agree. If this was in white, it would not be considered bannable because white really doesn't have a lot of stuff that's worthy of banning because it's not a very strong color. And that one would have just been a great tool for the toolbox. Now, that being said, if you include this in like Esper or Azorius, it would be as equally insane as it is. And maybe that's where the argument will start being. But at the very least, it would be fine because it's not primarily a blue card. It would have to be paired up with blue to be able to be very abusable. But if you strictly just kept it in white or mono white, people wouldn't be freaking out as much as they did when it came out. Rightfully so, because like I said, I'm a blue player, but I can recognize that this card should have never been made in blue. It's too insane. So as you can see, there was
in the same set. Wait, no, wait.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
In the same set,
Mhm.
you got Malcolm Key Knight
Oh, yeah.
Navigator.
Yep.
Now, there's a problem with Malcolm's wording
Yes.
because he says damage, not combat damage.
Yes.
So Malcolm Key Knight Navigator reads 2 and a blue, legendary creature Siren Pirate. He's a 2/2 flyer. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, you create a treasure for each damage dealt. For each opponent dealt damage.
Yes, exactly.
There's a card that combos with that.
Okay.
Glinthorn Buccaneer.
Yes, I
Glinthorn
believe it's.
Buccaneer. No, it doesn't make treasures.
Oh, it's not here. Yeah, because it's a big treasures.
It doesn't make treasures, but it's 2 mana. You discard a card and draw a card, and his ability is whenever you discard a card, you deal 1 damage.
Yep.
So you deal 1 damage to each opponent. You make 3 treasures. Use 2 of those to discard a card and draw a card, and you deal 1 damage to each opponent, and you just keep on going
infinitely. Yeah.
So this is a problem, especially if you're giving this to blue.
Yep. Yeah, because it's like if there would have been combat damage, which it should have said, because I just so you guys know, I have a Grixis pirate deck based on the commander that came out in Ixalan, the legendary creature that just it's a lord.
Admiral Beckett Brass.
Yes, that one, because I wanted a janky pirate deck, and most of the cards, they can draw you cards, they can destroy, they can do anything, but it has to be by battle. That's the whole point of that. So the fact that this was, I'm pretty sure that they meant to say combat damage, but I guess somewhere they forgot the wording, or they were like, screw it, it's an uncommon, no one cares. And they forgot to add the caveat that it should have been combat damage, because most pirates deal with combat damage. They can only, most of the time, they either enter the battlefield making a treasure token, or they sack a creature or whatever, or they do combat damage in order to make treasure tokens. I think they missed the ball here because of what you said, because they didn't consider the fact that if it was just dealing damage, it opens the floodgates of being able to do infinite loops with it. So
even the way the card is worded, like the way the card is worded, it just feels like it's literally just missing the combat damage text.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, definitely it is. Yeah. Maybe it was incidental. Maybe they were like, screw it, we don't care, it's an uncommon, whatever. We just want to make a bunch of partners so people have fun.
Yeah, I don't think it was entirely just like accidental for the reason that, like, if it was accidental, like someone would have pointed it out, and then Wizards would have just been like, oh yeah, like let's like do an errata.
You say that, but no, I don't think so.
When in recent time has there been an errata?
Yeah, It's only happening in arena, and it only happens when they see so much data that they need to fix the card.
No, but wasn't there like there was one card that had like a misprint on it, no?
But that's a
No,
misprint.
that's a misprint.
Yeah, it's not the same as they just let
No, yeah,
the
but
card go.
they like
and,
literally forgot a whole word in it, no?
No. It was the power and toughness. It's
Yeah.
a 2-mana 2/2 that was printed. The promo version was printed as a 2-mana 2/3.
yeah, which made it
Mm.
infinitely more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, then never mind.
yeah.
I could have sworn that recently there was a card that was that they had to like no, one of the vampires from Crimson Vow. They missed the text, an end of turn text. Like instead of doing it, it gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn. It just said it gains +2/+2.
So that was Commander set.
Oh yeah, Commander.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
for the Black Commander set. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, they don't.
But I think
if they're
the
going
point
to.
still stands though.
No, it's true. I mean, I'll say this: they only address if there's an errata or they need to fix a card before the card comes out, because they usually pick it up on that. If this card came out and no one says shit, that implies that they play tested the card, or lack thereof, they probably didn't play test shit, and they were like, "Nah, this is cool. This is fine. Whatever. Just fuck it. It's uncommon. No one cares. I hope they have fun." And they just left it be. You know what I mean? And since it hasn't caused that much turmoil like Hull Breacher did, I think that's why like the card is just. I think by design they made it that way. Maybe it was intention. Maybe they didn't care to play test if it was something that could be breakable. It will probably be breakable even further so in the future. Who knows? Pero yeah, I would say they obviously didn't care too much. So speaking of cards that they fixed in post or they fixed in arena, we have Goldspan. So then what happened was after Commander Legends, they went to Kaldheim, and then in Kaldheim, well, there's some dragons and there's dwarves now, and then they're like thinking of the same idea of okay, so dwarves, they make sense to have treasures, and dragons, obviously, we kind of established throughout literary history that dragons love to have treasures and hoard treasures. So let's start adding those in. So then we saw Kaldheim having a few of those, primarily in red, as JP mentioned before, but also starting to embrace white, which happens with stuff like forging the Trite Sword, and then monologuing tags and excavation technique, although those were the commander cards of Kaldheim, but still, it still stands that they started implementing that more. Of course, there were some breaks, like Feign the Broker, which I think was a card that JP was kind of hyped when they first talked about it, right?
I
do not remember that card. I remember the art, but not what it does.
I didn't remember it till Pleasant Konomi mentioned it, and I looked at the card. I'm like, I feel like JP would have probably addressed the card because of the fact that it's technically you can go infinite if you have some other elements on the table.
Infinite mana.
Yeah.
And
I feel like everything makes infinite mana.
Of course. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I don't think that. I don't think I was super excited. I think most of my excitement for this set was like Osgear.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but like as you start seeing, there's a shift towards white and embracing white as one of the other colors that should have treasures, while red primarily being red the main one, unless there's pirates involved. So as you can see, there's a couple ones. Then we start getting into Strixhaven. And then the justification in Strixhaven is that they're leaning very hard into red, but then blending it with Izzet. So if it's not going to be Grixis, then they've seemed to have settled upon, if we're going to focus on a guild that should have treasures, then it should be Izzet. And there's a couple of Izzet cards and a couple of cards that are in that house, which I forgot the house. Oh, Prismari.
Prismari. I think part of the like from what I can kind of remember.
Yeah.
The design space when having Prismari have treasures was just more centered around the fact that in the Ravnica guilds, they were supposed to be like super spell slingy and super chaotic. And then they wanted to do something like different. Like that's what they did with the Strixhaven. What were they called? Classes, guilds?
The schools.
The schools. So what they did with each of the schools is that they wanted to do something that combination of colors doesn't always do. So, for example,
or does, but not as commonly.
Yes. Okay.
exactly. So, with for example, the Boros house, I forgot their name right now, Lorehold.
Lorehold.
Instead of it being like super combat focused, it went into more like looting effects and stuff that like messes with your graveyard and exiles cards from your graveyard and so on. And then with Prismari, they leaned really heavily into the treasure theme, especially with a lot of the stuff that was being used in standard, and obviously, well, the head of the house himself, Galazeth Prismari.
Yep.
Which is just nerfed Urza essentially.
Yeah. Definitely.
With red.
Yep. With red. We got to make that. We got to state
abundantly
that.
clear. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. So we start seeing a couple of those the relegated, like I said, is it? But as you can see, it's becoming commonplace that at least in every set, and even every other set that isn't standard, as you're going to see right now, they still keep putting more treasure cards. And then so when we get to Modern Horizons 2, there's the introduction, there's pirates, but then they again push it stupidly hard and stupidly ridiculous into Ravagan. Stupid monkey, which is basically one of the most broken 1-drops ever printed in Magic.
You know what's funny?
Yeah, go ahead.
I still have the cube, even though it's slowly being dismantled.
Yeah.
As someone who's built a cube, and by the time I was building the cube, a Jackal Pup.
Yeah.
If you don't know what Jackal Pup is, Jackal Pup is a 1 mana, I think a 1 mana 2/1 or a 1 mana 2/2 that whatever damage is dealt to it is dealt to you.
Yeah.
That was a premium red creature, red 1-drop, because it was a 1 mana 2 power creature. It had a downside, and it was still premium. So the fact that in these last 5 years, they've just super powered up what a 1 mana creature can do. This card draws you a card. It ramps you. It deals damage, and it can have haste.
Yeah.
This card is crazy.
Insane. It's insane. The fact they printed it, and I'm pretty sure they printed it maybe thinking of like, oh, this be a cool little commander card. And it's like, nope. You guys pushed way too hard into this card. Put too hard.
I think it was supposed to kind of fill out the role of like, that 1-drop slot that Goblin Guide would have or something like that. Like finally having a 1-drop creature that doesn't have like a super huge downside. Yeah. But then they just like, hey, what if we just keep adding more stuff to it for a second?
Yeah, it combines a lot of the elements that Red has been doing as of late, which is looking at the top card of the player's library and being able to play it, and also creating treasures, which has primarily been relegated to Red, and just combining it with another broken ass thing that we haven't seen in a while, which is Dash on a red creature. So having all those 3 combinations in one card and making it a 2/1 1 mana drop, so powerful. It's pretty ridiculous. But also the cool thing about this, well, not the cool thing, but the interesting part is that in this set they started then putting more green cards, which is what JP was saying, having treasure mechanics on it. They created Crack Open, which was the destroy target for enchantment, so a disenchant. But for 1 more mana, you get to make a treasure token, making this essentially cost 2 mana. So yeah, JP, sorry, what would you say?
So this is like where I feel like it's okay when they added this to green.
Okay.
Because you have to go through some hoops to do it.
Okay.
So Crack Open is sorcery speed.
Yeah.
Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You can do that for like 1 mana and be like a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
Like the Fey Offering, you have to cast a creature and a non-creature, and then you get to create a food, clue, and a treasure.
Yes, because this set was kind of playing around with those 3 elements, by the way.
Yes. The other one has to die, and then the other one needs a land.
Yes.
So it's very like you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get the effect.
But to be fair, Song, it's things that green already does.
Yes,
pretty well.
Because Tireless Provisioner, it gives you the treasure, but like Lotus Cobra already gave you the mana.
Exactly.
Sure, you could store the treasure in this case. That is like the benefit of Tireless Provisioner.
Yes.
But Lotus Cobra is also 2 mana instead of 3.
Yes. True.
Which is also very relevant.
Yes.
At least in like something like Modern.
Of course.
So this effect was like it's strong. It's very, very strong. And giving you the option between food and treasures is like very strong.
Yeah.
In the case of Tireless Provisioner, but this is like the pushed green version that I'm like, okay, I can get behind this.
Yes. It was still relatively fair because it was a little bit overcosted, so then it wouldn't be like ridiculously like a 2 mana 3/2 that landfall makes something, or it wasn't like a crack open that costs 1 or something crazy. It was still relatively fair. Then the next set was D&D, which, as we talked about at the beginning, was obviously bound to have a lot of treasures and a lot of treasure cards they provided. They provided in black, they provided in red, they provided in green, they provided in black, and they provided in blue. They provided in all the colors. So
even white?
Even white. Yeah. Let me show you.
We talk about Old Gnawbone. Now that we're talking about like the problem that is green having treasures, can we talk about Old Gnawbone?
Yeah, sure.
How ridiculous it is.
Oh my god, I lied to you. I'm sorry. They didn't have white. You're right.
White doesn't
You're right.
have it. Because
White
again,
doesn't have it.
They wanted to be very taxing, but they decided not to add taxing cards because taxing cards are unfun.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Chris, sorry. Yes, you were saying.
Yeah, but like Old Gnawbone, man, is just
Old Gnawbone. Yep.
He flies. Like on his own, he smacks face and makes 7 treasures. If you have anything else on the battlefield, there's only gains from anything you're doing. Like, most likely, you're playing Old Gnawbone, you're a Timmy, you're going to be playing this in a Dragon deck. Or you're going to be playing this in, like, a big, trampoly, like, mono green deck, because you really want this, like, really Timmy-ass legendary to be your commander, which is something I sorely miss.
Pleasant could always talked about this, specifically Old Gnawbone, because he was like, why is this stuck on a green creature? And he only fathomed that the only reason why it was this effect specifically on this dragon is because he's green, and green is the color of greed. Because relatively speaking, this should have been in a red or a potentially white
You
dragon.
know what? Not even relatively. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, not even relatively, like flavor-wise, that should have been on a red dragon, because red dragons are literally the greediest of all of the dragons. That's like what they represent. I don't necessarily have an issue with the fact that it's an Old Gnawbone, but unless there's like a flavor reason, I have not read anything about Old Gnawbone as like character, so I have no idea what's going on there. But unless there's like a flavor reason for him to make treasures out of smacking face, the ability to me just doesn't even sound green.
Yes.
So,
go ahead.
I know why he. I don't know why he makes treasures, but I know why he is green.
Yeah.
Because they added a mythic dragon for every color.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's why he's in green. The reason he's not in red is because Inferno of the Star Mounts is in red, and he does something very red, which is
fire. I understand that, but why not just make this guy
an entirely different
put this guy anywhere else? They could have just put him in a commander deck. They could have Wizards of the Coast, with how long they've been in this, should not have the issue of like, oh, I want to stick this mechanic on a card because it needs to be in the set, but oh no, I don't have like the imagination, I suppose, to just stick in a color, like just to give it something else, just make it something else. I don't know. Like, I just don't understand who saw this and said, let's put this on a green creature. This is perfect.
Yeah.
This belongs on a green creature.
Yeah.
You could have just made something else. Old Gnawbone could have had a different effect.
Yeah, period. Like a poisoning effect, or like, maybe poison counter.
Actually, poisoning.
Poisoning.
He is a 7/7 dude.
No, but a poison counters is the fair one, isn't it? It's not. Yeah, poison counters.
I deal 7 damage to you, and you get one poison counter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would have been great.
That's exactly.
That would
it's
have
the
been
fair one.
great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the whole deal.
Okay. So
I
I want to
I
talk
think I'm done.
about like the green ones. So that you have Instrument of the Bards. It's a legendary artifact for 1 green. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a harmony counter on Instrument of Bards, and then for 3 and a green, you search your library, you tap it, you search your library for a creature card with the mana value equal to the number of harmony counters on Instrument of Bards.
Beautiful.
Reveal it, put it into your hand, and if that card's a legendary, create a treasure token and shuffle. It's not that broken, but then we start getting into like stuff that is questionably powerful in Prosperous Innkeeper, which is a 1 colorless and a green for a 1/1 creature halfling citizen. When he enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token, and then he has the sisters effect of whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. This is when it starts to get a little iffy. It starts to be like, I understand that you want to have like a mana dork, a one-time mana dork, but then you're already touching on stuff that normally, yes, sister abilities like this one have been in green before, but usually you see it in white for a reason, and it's where it starts getting iffy. Then you get stuff like you find a cursed idol, which has 3 different modes. One of them is creating a treasure token and venturing to dungeon, which is another whole thing entirely, but now you have modal stuff with that. So where once you had a 3-costed card that you can destroy target artifact or enchantment, then create a treasure token. So it was 1 more mana in modern, which is kind of difficult. Now you have a 2 mana card where you can create a treasure token, venture, or you have the other side where you can basically disenchant either way. And that's where it starts getting a little iffy. Yeah, it starts becoming a little powerful, especially with all Gnawbone, because if you smack with it, you get 7 treasure tokens. Then we go to the other batch of D&D cards. They included a couple of artifacts, a couple lands, and then in the commander sets, we got mostly red cards as well. There's a couple of black ones, and then in the next set, we get Kamigawa, and then in Kamigawa, we also get the same problem where there's still cards that give you treasure tokens. There's a couple in red, there's a couple in black, and there's, I believe, 1 or 2. There's just 1 in blue and an artifact one.
The 1 in blue is very situational because
it's very situational, which is super fair
to ninja and rogue. So I feel like it's rather fair.
But it's getting to a point where you're like, why? This is Kamigawa. There's no need to be talking about treasures at this point. We're like in a plane with samurais and neon lights. Why are we getting treasures here too?
Yeah.
Right? It's getting a little insane.
Kind of makes sense for Atsushi because he's a red dragon.
Yeah, sure. But that's basically the only one. Yeah, that's the only one. Yeah. And then finally, we get some more Commander because the Commander is already playing heavily with this. We started getting a couple of the white cards, but that's this is a new Capenna set. So obviously, new Capenna, you're obviously going to put treasures in all of these colors. And I believe that new Capenna was the one that actually put it in all colors. So there's white, there's black, there's red, there's green, and there's black. So all of these colors.
Technically blue?
There's 2 in blue. 2 in blue. It's like, an offer you can refuse. And I believe the other one.
Tibet.
And Tibet. Yeah. Exactly.
So this is where the philosophy kind of starts shifting a bit. But I understand it in white. This is the type of taxing effect I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very like the.
When you're talking about taxing effects, which card are you talking about?
A smuggler. It's not necessarily a taxing effect.
Yes.
So this is like too far, but this is like what I was mentioning.
Yes.
They wanted to add treasures to white cards, but they wanted to be tied to a taxing effect, giving the opponent the opportunity to deny you the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course you have to deny white's ramp.
Of course.
Right? Cause, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they went too far. So Smuggler's Share is an enchantment for 2 and a white. At the beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew a card.
Who drew 2 or more.
Who drew 2 or more.
Yes.
Create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under their control.
Yeah.
This turn. So this isn't taxing, but this is like this is the too far on the spectrum of taxing is unfun. So let's give you this.
Yeah.
Because they playing against Smothering Tithe can feel smothering. It could feel like very oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
But playing against but in retrospect, if your tax is too delayed, so your tax your the way you can collect in this case is too delayed, then what's the point?
Yeah.
It's
Especially
like,
with the second clause, because the second clause of creating a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 more lands sent to the battlefield under their control. If they see your card, they're gonna be like, "Well, I play a fresh land, I pass. Okay, at the end of the other guy's turn, I'm gonna crack it. I'm gonna put a land." So you're unless it's a landfall deck or like a deck that's gonna beat you over the head with a bunch of lands, you're not gonna create a lot of treasures with this card. You will get more draws, that's for sure, because if you're up against a lot of control, you're gonna get your draws. But that's, like you said, incidental, and no one's gonna care because you're just gonna be drawing the one card. You're gonna making the one treasure. So this is too far in the other direction, as JP said, where you're barely doing anything in the board.
So I was playing Osgear earlier today, and I wheeled twice in one turn.
Yeah.
Then at the end step, oh look, if someone had that in play, let's just say someone had that in play.
Yeah.
It's not out yet, of course.
Yeah.
But let's just say that was in play. Oh look, you get to draw one more card. Well, I drew 14 cards and played all of them.
Yep.
Also, at least most of them.
Yeah.
It's like I don't feel like this card it's not. Like
it's not.
This is the type of effect that we want to see in white, but we want to see it a bit more pushed.
Yes, but I think we're getting to that point.
By the way, but this is a good card. By the way,
yeah.
I feel like this is a really good card.
It's not a like if you have a taxing deck, it's one of those cards that it's a pretty good card to replace a not so good taxing card. That's for sure. It's not like a run and buy it. This is not a Smothering Tithe situation, but it's true. Like, it's not even a monologue tax, because I think you can probably get more off of a monologue tax than you can get off this. But if you still have a spot missing, this is a good include. That is very true. I agree. But I would say that this sets particularly, which is why I wanted to get to New Capenna specifically, they started seeing, obviously because they have years of research now, they started seeing what treasures can do. And now they're trying to course correct treasures to some degree, because in one side of the argument, they're trying to course correct treasures. But then in the other side of the coin, as we're going to see very quickly, they're going wild in a specific color with the treasure mechanic. So these are the commander ones, which obviously are going to be more push than the normal cards. But one of the cards I wanted to talk about was life insurance. Life insurance is a little insane. Thank God it has the non-token creature die, so it's non-token creature dice. You lose one life.
And you get to lose a life.
Exactly. So it's kind of balanced. It's balanced, but it's still pretty powerful.
So the reason why I feel like this is a lot more like balanced, like this is a lot more balanced than
definitely
Pitiless Plunger, is because the loss of life makes you go even. If you had a blood artist, like if you find a way to have a non-token die over and over and over and over and over again, and all you needed was the mana.
Yeah.
This does that.
Yeah.
But the life loss will get to you eventually. And even if you have a blood artist effect, it will have you go even and not plus.
Yeah.
Which is one, like in my Ayara deck, I play with any, like I play Pitiless Plunger and any creature, any of my 3 creatures that can bring themselves back with mana, and I just go off. For the most part. Yeah. So this is like the correct direction to go with this. It's strong. It's very strong. It's 5 mana for an enchantment that basically enters and does nothing.
Yeah,
it's very, very it's very, very expensive.
Yeah,
but the potential this card gives you is very, very good.
I agree. And as you can see with a lot of these cards, they start experimenting with stuff like stacking treasures to pump creatures. Um, you get to make a lot of treasures and cascading. I think there was one card, if you use the treasure to do something specifically, I believe that you, what was, oh, it was this one exactly. The first spell you cast a Sherwood mana from a treasure was spent to cast it has cascade. So you get to play more with treasures, and treasures have more utility now. But at the
Yep.
cost of, like, again, like I said, they're trying to fix it. So they're trying to make stuff like life insurance, which seems more balanced, more fair. As we're going to get to new Capenna, like the actual standard set, there's treasures that enter the field tapped, which is a new thing they introduced because they realize treasure can become very crazy if it's unchecked. So the way that they're trying to fix it now is to making, if they deem a card way too powerful, we're going to get to a few of them soon, your treasure will enter the battlefield tapped, so you can't just immediately abuse it and get an infinite loop going. Yeah, so as you can see, this was the first, I'm pretty sure this was the first set because we went through all of them. The first set that basically all colors have treasure mechanics, either incidentally or not, whatever. But blue had like two. One of them was an offer you can refuse, which it was a card that I argued that maybe wasn't that good, but I feel like it's pretty powerful because if you were able to stop the combo and that person, the person you give two treasures to can't come back from it, you basically can stop them from winning the game outright. There's a bunch of cards that play with like Jund colors and stuff like that, but I want to get specifically to the green stuff. And
Or do go to the green stuff. Just like quick thing on the the counter, right? The cool, like, one thing, I thought the same way you did, but then after talking to like some of our friends about it, one thing that I heard from one of our friends that just like resonated a lot was like, hey, it doesn't matter what you're countering with that, in the sense that anything that you counter is going to be better than two treasures.
Yes.
Like, you're going to counter someone like about to win, you're going to counter someone that's about to make so much value like on their table that it's going to be like impossible to deal with later. So yeah, that's about it. Like it's really cool. It creates like the treasure thing. I think it's just still kind of fun, but yeah, like anything you play is better than two treasures, and that thing counters for one mana, which is great.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you get to stop a lot of the opponent's win cons, combo pieces, and if they're tapped out and the treasures don't do anything with it, they're gonna just lose outright. Yeah, so obviously we get more red stuff like big score, but they already know how to work around the red stuff. So this one is like, as an additional cost, discard a card and then draw two to create two treasures, which is just another version of another card that came out. I think it was Ixalan, actually.
Ixalan.
Yeah, but this one's actually a common, whereas the other was uncommon. So this one's technically power creeped because it's common, so you can use it in Pauper if anyone cares about that. But yeah, we get to basically green, where I want to talk about bootleggers.
Right there.
Yep. Let's talk about bootleggers. Go ahead, JP.
Let's go.
This card should have been red.
Yes, I agree.
If just not simply not exist.
Exactly, I agree.
So this is the card I've been waiting to talk about, as we've been saying.
Yep.
In the color pie. So white needs treasures through a taxing effect. Blue gets treasures, but very, very limited because otherwise they go off too easily. We've already established that. Red gets to make treasures. That's just the color that does it. Black gets to make treasures, but at a cost. Just like everything black does, black can do anything, but at a cost. Now green just gets to make treasures because they're the color of mana, and they can just do it almost better than red. What?
Yeah.
I don't agree that this should be green. I don't agree that this should be like it just feels wrong. Green has always been against artifacts, and this adding this making mana for an artifact you can just store for later.
Yeah,
is very, 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 very strong.
Yeah.
I don't like that this effect exists like this.
Do you think this was originally a different color?
I don't actually.
Okay, you think it
I,
was?
I fully believe they understood what they were doing, and they're like, "Yep, green
I
deserves
mean,
more
it
RAM."
tracks.
Yeah.
It tracks with an old Gnawbone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like a pattern, you know.
Hmm.
At least the old novel needs to deal the combat damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a green card that doesn't feel like a green card, and we've been getting a lot of like cards like that,
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the past like few years.
Yeah, definitely. Green is doing everything now, and doing it
Mm.
pretty easily. Like, there's no downside to running green with anything or running green alone,
Yeah.
because it's to a point you can run green by itself and it can do it can draw you cards, it can ramp you like crazy, it can destroy anything. I mean, what can't they do at this point? They keep pushing green so much and putting stuff in green that shouldn't be in green, like the aforementioned Bootlegger Stash.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I
Like,
Uh.
I on the I do want to mention
Yeah.
on the as a counter argument to it should not be in green, even though I am against bootleggers, like specifically Bootlegger Stash.
Yeah.
Look at Gala Greeters right next to
Yeah.
Bootlegger Stash.
Mhm.
Gala Greeter reads 1 and a green creature elf druid. It's a 1/1 alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, so it's another creature
Yep.
enters the battlefield under your control, you can choose one that hasn't been chosen. And the options are you gain 2 life, put a +1 counter on it, Gala Greeters, or create a tap treasure token. Just in case for our listeners,
White.
we probably we're talking about Bootlegger Stash. We haven't actually said what it does. Bootlegger Stash is a 5 and a green for an artifact. Lands you control have create, tap, and users create a treasure token.
Yep, not even tapped, just created.
Yeah, and that's a thing they could have done. It should have been a tapped treasure token.
Of course, because you have 2 other cards that at least share green that they enter tapped, just to make it a little more balanced.
Gala Greeters being one.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mentioned how I don't. I enjoy the way they added treasures through tireless provisioners, because
Yes.
you had to go through something. You had to go through something green does already.
Yes.
In this case, being lands, and Gala Greeter's case being a creature.
Yes.
It is something Gala Greeters green does. You
Mhm.
play lands and you play creatures.
Yeah.
This just gets you the treasures, and you get the treasures tapped.
Yeah.
If Bootlegger Stash said lands you control have tap, create a treasure token, a tapped treasure token,
Mhm.
I think it will be a lot more balanced.
Yeah, it'll be a little better.
And I would say okay, it's fair.
Yeah. Because at least it tracks with green. It should be overcosted, which, it's 6 mana, so it's not going to see play in standard, but it will definitely see play in every commander deck that has green for the rest of existence. Because there's just no reason why you shouldn't run it in green. If you have a pip of green in your deck, you have to run this card. It's like an auto include. Unless it's like an elf deck. Unless it's like an elf deck.
I wouldn't say it's an auto include.
Oh, I would say it's an auto include. I would definitely go ahead and say it. There's no reason. Because at worst, you have that card, and at the end phase, no one did anything. Okay, I'm going to tap it. I'm going to just create a bunch of treasures. Oh, still no one's doing anything? Cool. I'm just going to go to my turn, and now I have incidental extra mana that I can use for whatever. Because, it's lands you control tap to create treasure tokens. So no one can go in between. You
Seedborn
tap
Muse
it.
on curve.
Yeah.
Just put down a Seedborn Muse on curve and watch the world burn.
Exactly. So no, this is if you have green, you have to run this. There's no reason why you shouldn't run it, because in most circumstances, you're definitely going to be able to abuse it. You're going to have a lot of extra mana that you might just not need, or at the end step you have a 4 mana on tap, whatever. I tap them, I create treasures, I still have the mana available if someone wants to do any shenanigans at the end of the turn. No one does anything, cool. I have 4 extra mana that I can use whenever the hell I want. It's too good. You can even go crazy and be like, oh, I tap all my mana, so I produce a bunch of treasures. I can do an Armageddon, and I still have a bunch of mana that I can use whenever the hell I want. It doesn't have to be on the spot. and I can slow play the game because now I have a bunch of treasures that I can use whenever the hell I want. So it's pretty strong. Like I would say like maybe Elves doesn't need it because Elves is gonna win way faster than you getting to play that. But if it's already like a type of control deck or maybe like a Jundi deck or something, you're going to be able to use this most of the time. But I feel like you said and like I mentioned, it should have been tapped because when you get to Ogni's, the Dragon's Lash, he's a legendary creature. The Ashino Warrior is a 3/3 with haste. Whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token. And that was done by design because if this card would have been paired up with aggravated assault, it would be just auto win. You just auto win on the spot. If you had which is the fish, the one that fish uses?
Hellgate Charger or Hellgate Tyrant? No, Hellgate
No,
Charger.
no, I mean the warrior, the 5-color warrior, Najili.
Najila?
Najila. If you had that with
Oh,
Najila,
yeah,
you would all
Najila.
go insane as well because it's also
Yeah, Najila
it's also
gives
a warrior.
makes you also Najila gives trample life
Exactly.
and haste, I think. as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. So you pair that with Najila, you pair him, you do a deck with him. But see, they thought of this and they were like, okay, if we let him basically do a treasure for every creature that attacks with haste, which is very easy to do in these colors, you're just gonna have a lot of extra mana, and then you can just do a bunch of aggravated assaults and just win on the spot. They just have basically infinite mana. So they had the foresight of at very least consider the fact this can be very abusable very quickly. So let's start implementing the idea of getting some treasures that enter tapped to kind of balance out the overabundance of trapped treasures that we've been using for a while. But you know, it's been 5 years of this, and that's when now they're starting to realize, okay, we need to kind of like balance this out a little bit. We got to like play around with this mechanic. And yeah, like will the next few sets have treasures? We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think? Do you think it's like JP said, is it a evergreen? Is this an evergreen that is not an evergreen, or what?
Yeah, that's actually what I kind of wanted to bring up next.
Yeah.
And it's what do you guys think that Wizards is currently doing with treasures? Like, what do you see like its direction being? Like, is this just something experimental, like in which they were just kind of like, hey, let's try out and see, like, let's just add in treasures just to like have something, I don't know, fun in the mix, or like add some variety? Or do you think that it's more like a direction that's already been like planned out? Like, do they already know what they want treasures to be in the game?
So I'm not sure if we covered this, or was it before we started the show and we started talking about the general things that Orengo mentioned, that Wizards has actually said, okay, we're gonna sprinkle in some treasures in some sets and not in others, depending on how they make sense. So they made sense in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
They make sense for mobsters. They make sense
For pirates.
Do they really make sense in Kamigawa though?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
There's only like, what?
Yeah.
2 cards, 3 cards.
It's like 5 cards, but yes,
It's
there's
like-
a couple.
There's a couple, and it doesn't make sense. So that's where one of the problems starts coming in. But for the most part, they've been like very careful about it. I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if we see no treasures in either Dominaria United or Brothers War.
Yeah.
I hope not, to be honest. I think it would definitely be, in my opinion, a wasted slot of something they can do with that.
Yeah.
Something that feels more at home when we talk about the plane of Dominaria and Dominaria's old history.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any idea specifically what right now, right? But I just think it's a mechanic slot that could be filled with something more flavorful and just something different to kind of get us out of that, like the current rut that I kind of feel that Magic is stuck in with the treasures. Not in a bad way, but just like I don't know, it's kind of getting old for me.
Yeah.
So speaking of getting old, and you mentioned it being like pseudo evergreen, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's like treasure tokens have become evergreen.
It's unofficially
before-
evergreen at this point. Yeah.
Before you make your point, I wanna like take it a step further. Like, I just don't even find treasures interesting.
That's fair.
They look fun, but just honestly, I just don't find them like interesting. Like I don't want to play treasures because I'm like, oh yeah, treasures look so fucking cool. Like no, I just want to play treasures in deck sometimes because I know that it gives me kind of like a big advantage.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
They recently made Gold Evergreen in Commander.
Mm-hmm.
With this in mind, what mechanics would be since you mentioned like future sets, what mechanics would be broken and or bad to be evergreen for future sets? Because treasures is starting to feel a bit problematic.
Yeah.
But if they tone it down and modify how they make it, then it'll be fine, in my opinion. Just make more Gala Greeters and Tireless Provisioner type stuff in green. Make more Smothering Tithe, but maybe like a mix between Smothering Tithe and Life Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe tax for 1 instead of 2, for whatever card it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be make it balanced. Red can just make the treasures. Blue, just avoid blue.
Yeah.
Just avoid it in blue. It's just hard to make it balanced in blue because blue can just abuse artifacts so easily, and make it make it have a severe cost in black. Make it instead of 1 life, 2 life, 2 life per 1 mana. Believe me, people would take that, and it'll be actual. And like I'll take that. 2 life.
Mm-hmm. You mean instead of making a 2 mana uncommon that just makes you sacrifice a creature and it draws you 2 cards and gives you a treasure?
Wait, what? Which creature is that?
That's not it's a 2 mana instant. You just sacrifice a creature, you draw, I think it's 2 cards, and you make 2 treasures, or if you draw a card and make 2 treasures.
Yeah, that's too liberal of a cost. You need to make it
exactly. It's
more
insane.
severe. You need to make it a more severe of a cost. So,
because if you were sacrificing a creature in any other color, I think it would be much that would actually be like hella hurtful, you know?
Yeah.
Like it could set you back. But in black, like come on, dude, it's like King of Recursion.
Mm-hmm.
So what mechanics off the top of your head could make the evergreen a bit too problematic?
Problematic. That's interesting. I'm trying to think because I'm looking at some of the ones that are the Decidius, meaning that are not evergreen but show up a lot. So I picked up a wiki of that. So we have blood tokens, we have cantrips, we have clue tokens, we have colored artifacts, we have curses, we have cycling, we have double face cards, which we've seen a bunch of.
Didn't they make? They made cycling deciduous. That was a thing as well.
Yes.
So it'll just appear whenever, but it won't be a
exactly.
thing.
So that's why I'm looking at these specifically because these are the ones that can turn evergreen, I guess. Food tokens, generic mana cost spells, hybrid mana, keyword counters, phasing, which as you can see they've been kind of returning to that.
Yeah.
Protection from prowess, sagas, which you also know they've been doing that quite a lot until recently. They kind of like cooled off a little bit on that. Split cards, the aforementioned treasure tokens, and vehicles.
Vehicles have been a thing as well.
Yes, they've been definitely pushing that a bit more as of late as well. I think they got scared in Kaladesh. They got really scared in Kaladesh. And then when they started reintroducing it slowly up again, they feel more confident now at putting vehicles again.
All of these problems I've noticed, they're artifacts.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah, a lot of them are just artifacts.
Sagas haven't been a problem.
No, they haven't. They've been strong sagas, but usually in standard.
Yeah, but why haven't they pushed mechanics for enchantments? Even in Theros.
I feel like there was kind of a push in Kamigawa though.
No, because there was sagas.
But
do any of the sagas see play other than the green one? I think the green one.
Well, okay, we all know that Ursa Saga sees play, but that's the only one.
I wouldn't count that.
I will count that because that's a stupid saga, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm thinking of more like standard wise.
Okay,
Ursa Saga went directly to modern.
Yeah, and look at the chaos it creates.
which at the end of the day, it's really just a commander card. So
Yeah, that's true. It's a very powerful command. For us, it's just commander. What's a modern? Who plays that?
who is modern? Who's
Who
this
is
modern guy?
Who is this modern guy? Let's beat him up. Let's beat him up. But yeah, I would say that beyond like I agree. Like in terms of standard, they're only good in standard, but once they like are pushed to other sets or to other formats, they're not as powerful, if at all. Except again for Urza Saga, which was designed to be very pushed. So you're right. But I mean, I guess in terms of the ones that I mentioned, that's a pretty one. I have the same one, I think, but I don't think I have a foil. So
It's not foil.
oh, the glare. It seemed
glare.
like it was foil. Out of all of these, it's not that any of them seem broken except for treasures. But at least treasures, if they make it so they enter tapped, I guess I'm fine with it. I would say the other ones that could be problematic, and they seem to be problematic until they kind of stop putting them so much, was obviously double face and sagas, because they keep being so prevalent. Sagas was something clearly that they started doing. I believe it was Dominaria. I believe, right? Yeah, Dominaria. Yeah. They've been keep doing this until like present day, but they've never been really powerful. It's just a way to make a pretty powerful enchantment that has variation, but then it goes away. So the opponent doesn't have to deal with the fact that it stays there. Not unlike, say, the ones that they introduced in... what was that set? Oh, it was D&D. The one that they included, the class cards, which were enchantments that are kind of like sagas, but you have to power them up. So like it's like a level up card. Those ones could be a little more annoying because they stay there and they have cumulative effects that of course you have to pay for.
Yeah.
But it could be a problem if they design one like that's a mythic, and then you'll be like, well, pay 1 and draw 1 card, pay 3, you get to wheel, pay 5, you get an extra turn every turn, or something crazy like that. I don't know. I know they're not gonna do something crazy like that, but what I'm saying is, it has the potential maybe to be pushed a little bit further, because unlike sagas, which go away after 3 turns, no matter how powerful and disgusting they are, Urza's Saga, these ones would be prevalent. The other problem with double face cards is that they give them, it's cool because they give them space to create more cards in the set without actually making more cards in the set, but at the cost that then maybe one of the sides is kind of too ridiculous. We haven't gotten to that point. But
there's one of them that's...
which one was it?
I'll have to look for it. There's like the blue one that's really stupid. It's let me check in.
The one that's the boat one?
No, it's a blue saga.
Okay. Oh, blue saga, my bad.
Oh, wait a second, you were talking about double face card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was going to talk about like Azika and like the fact that like one side is just like, oh, she makes your legendaries mana dorks, cool, and then the other side is like, oh yeah, just like at the beginning of your upkeep, you just put down a creature or planeswalker for free.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah.
Inventive iteration.
Oh right, yeah.
It's the 3 and a blue. It's a saga. When it enters, it adds a lower counter. The first one is return up to 1 target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand.
Yep.
The second one is return an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. If you can't, draw a card.
Yep. And
the third one is exile the saga and flip it. On flip side, it's a 3 mana. It's a 3/3 flyer, and whenever you cast a spell, your opponents can't cast spells with the same mana value as that spell until your next turn.
Yeah.
So if you cast a 1 mana spell, 2 mana spell, 3 mana spell, 4 mana spell, 5 mana spell, like if you could just lock people out.
Yeah. For a whole turn, yeah. And then next turn you just rinse or repeat because you're blue and you can do everything.
Yeah.
Wait, go again. Like I totally you lost me reading like halfway through that.
Whenever you cast a spell, your opponents can't cast spells with the same mana value as that spell until your next turn.
Oh, okay, that's freaking ridiculous. Let's go.
Yeah, so you can lock people out. So I remember seeing this in play on a Shorikai deck, and it went off, but like it locked us out for like 1 turn, not for like several turns. And the problem with these type of effects is that you see it coming from a mile away because it's level 3 on a saga, which is why I keep saying what I'm saying is like there hasn't been a push mechanic for enchantments. Why I say this is because vehicles are artifacts, and treasures are artifacts, and with artifacts come artifact synergies. Enchantment synergies are few and far between in at least standard sets. Theros has been like the only enchantment focused plane from what I've seen in a while, if not ever. And it'd be nice to see like a stronger effect like that for like enchantments and stuff.
Yeah. I remember they introduced with I think Nico, I don't remember. It was the Zorius Planeswalker. I think because they showed up in Kaladesh, right? Was it Kaladesh?
Yeah.
They had the mechanic of shards.
Wait, Nico showed up in Kaladesh?
Was it Kaladesh? Or
No,
was it
Nico wasn't that War of the Spark?
No.
Maybe I'm saying the name wrong. I'm sorry. It's the,
no.
the first non-binary planeswalker.
The first non-binary planeswalker, yeah.
No, but that wasn't.
They didn't appear in.
No.
This is Kaladesh. Yeah, that was the first time.
Kaladesh, right? Okay.
Kaladesh.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Kaladesh.
Yes.
With the introduction of the shards, the shard token, which is an enchantment token, which is different. And
I think not remember that at all.
It was a pay 2 or pay 1, and then you scry or you look at the top card and then you draw. Right? That's
Kaladesh, like the artifact set?
Wait. Shard. Oh, like Kaldheim.
You said Kaladesh.
Kaldheim, I'm sorry.
Kaldheim. There we go. I'm like,
oh, sorry. I kept saying
I was very
Kaladesh.
confused, bro.
The Kaldheim. Sorry, Kaldheim.
Yeah, okay, Kaldheim.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
This is perfect. Exactly.
Yeah.
They should make shard tokens more of a thing.
Yes, I agree. Because when I saw it first, I was like, whoa, that's cool. I want to see more of that. Yeah.
I do want to see more. See, this is the type of effect like. It's a token enchantment to shard. You pay 2 mana, sacrifice this enchantment, scry 1, then draw a card.
Yeah.
We were talking. Who was it we were talking with the other day? That clues are like absolute, like they're horrible.
Yeah.
Like clues are actually bad. Clues are not good. Mostly for the fact that you pay 2 mana for 1 card.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this is just a better clue because someone was saying 2 mana for, like, I think Alice does me 2 mana, scry 1, then draw is perfect because it's not. There's a card that came out in Zendikar Rising.
Yes.
That's 1 and a blue, and it says scry 2, then draw a card. So it's preordained, but for 2 mana.
Yeah.
So I thought if a clue did that, it'd be too strong.
Yes.
But if it did half of that, so if it only scried 1 and then drew a card, because you have to go through the hoop of making the clue and then go pay the mana.
But the only reason why I think, I feel like clues are broken as shit. Maybe not because they are clues and and the effect that they do, but because inherently they are artifacts, and that's what makes them broken because they're very easily.
Which again, I think enchantment should be more of a thing.
Exactly, because then I like the shard because even though it's an upside to clue, and clues are used because when clues came out, that thing was abused outright.
Yeah.
But they're more abused because I have an Ursa deck, so I know the value of having a clue. And even not in an Ursa, like if it's an Emery deck or if it's like something with improvision, ¿cuál era the mechanic of I forgot the mechanic, the one that you kind of tap artifacts to pay for the cost. Improvise. Yes, improvise. There's improvise. But now with shards, since it's a token enchantment, there's not a lot of ways you can abuse that. So it's what could you abuse it? There's no improvise.
Lonis Cryptozoologist.
Oh, Lotus is like, come on.
Clues, and I was severely disappointed.
Okay, well, I don't know.
I made a lot of clues.
I mean, está bien. I do Urza, and every time that stupid little card every time I cast a spell, it makes a clue, I go off. I go nuts. If I had Emery, it would probably
you're
be the same
making mana in blue.
Yes.
Again, the same problem we've been saying. Blue, it's like blue just making mana is a problem.
But that's why I think it's fair to keep clue as is and keep shard as is. I don't know. It's because
it's not. it's not the clue token that's the problem. Now it's just Urza. Urza's the
No,
problem.
the problem with Clue is that it's an artifact. It's a token artifact. That's why even food was kind of insane when it came out, because the fact that it's an artifact and it at that time you didn't have Clue, so you had to.
Food was insane because Eldraine.
Of course, because of the set proper. But it's also an artifact. It's what I'm saying is you can abuse these things because you can sack them for value. There's a lot of cards that you can sack artifacts, and they are cards that incidentally are created by other things. They incidentally create food tokens, incidentally create treasure tokens, incidentally create clues. Obviously, treasures are the ones that the best out of all these three that I mentioned.
Because they have no initial cost.
Yes, I would argue that Clue
I guess
is
they do have an initial cost as tapped.
Sure. But I would argue the second best is Clue, because drawing is infinitely better than just gaining life, because you can gain all the life in the world, but if you don't draw into your pieces, you're just gonna die anyways. So that's food is just to prevent you from dying so quickly. Clue, at least you draw a card, even though you can't scry. What's cool about shards is that since it's an enchantment, there's, as long as I know, there's no way to abuse it, because there's not a lot of stuff that I sack an enchantment.
There's not much.
There's a couple.
Believe me, I've been looking because I want to make Gen Arcanum Weaver.
Yes.
The Mardu enchantment reanimator deck.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to make him.
Yeah.
And,
he brings back something converted mana cost 3 or less, was it?
No.
Or just straight up.
He just reanimates an enchantment.
Exactly.
I sack an enchantment and reanimate another one.
Exactly. But there's not a lot of cards that do that. For now, who knows? Maybe in the future that's the next thing that they start to play around. But for now, it's not a thing.
I really do think that if let's say they change the name, because you know how gold was the predecessor to treasure.
Yeah.
And they realized that gold is a problem because you could just make the gold. Like there weren't that many good gold cards, but they realized quickly that they were like, okay, we don't have just make the gold and you sack it.
Yeah, you're basically making a box for free.
This is a problem. This is the Lotus Battle, and right now Lotus
Battle. No, it's a box. That's what I'm telling you.
Lotus Battle has to tap.
Exactly.
You just sack this.
Yeah.
If this comes into play tapped, you can just still sack it, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's why treasures now tap, because it's a balancing effect. Because if the treasure comes in tapped, then that's fine. You can't use it.
Yeah.
So if they find a way, if Shard is going to be the predecessor to whatever new token is going to be in, I do hope that is very similar or the same, just with a different name.
Yeah.
So Shards can stay, because I really do enjoy 2 mana, scry 1, draw a card.
Yeah,
that's actually like that. I feel like that's a fair cost for a very strong effect. But 2 mana, draw a card on an artifact, because it's mostly because the artifact it's an artifact, and that's why why it's a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I really do hope Shards. So, you see, now we answered my original question is like, this is the thing I want more of. Make Shards a thing now.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, if you're going to be pushing tokens of all variety of tokens that there already is, make Shards a thing. You already introduced it. Maybe you were scared. That's why you stuck it on a mythic, thinking that mythic was going to break standards.
And it's the only thing that did it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure it was to play test, to make sure, be like, okay, let's see how broken this is. And since they make these sets so far in advance, they probably looked at the card when it was released. It didn't do a lick in standard. And now they're like, so maybe we can push this, because clearly it's not doing the effect that we
wanted. That was a year ago.
Yeah, I know.
We might see this type of effect next year.
Exactly.
Because it's 2 years in advance.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that they're looking at that and they saw, okay, this is not doing the thing that we wanted, so maybe we can put a few more shards and play with that more. It could be a thing. I could see if they're going to be doing this, which I get it. It's fine. It makes the game a little more diverse or whatever. I like shards. Shards are fun. I like sagas. It got to the point I was feeling the same way about sagas as I feel about treasures. They were very abused. Now they're more scarce, but at one point you were seeing them basically in every set too. It was a little bit insane. Now they kind of toned down that a little bit. Now they're like, okay, they're experimenting with other types, like the class cards. They're experimenting with how to play more with the sagas, where they have 2 modes, and then the third mode is that they turn into a creature. So they're playing a little more with like mix and matching these elements, like the double face cards, and then sagas and treasures. And yeah, this seems to be the future of Magic now. It's just a bunch of stuff that feels better in Arena and is a mess on paper. Because all of this
I
is just
think,
messy when you play it on paper.
yeah, I also think that it's like really nice that it isn't as much of an abrupt change when we get all of these like cards that combine different card types into the same piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's a bit more of a gradual change, because I personally remember uh, looking at Yu-Gi-Oh from afar. Like at first, like, yeah, okay, you had synchros, you had all this cool stuff going on, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand. I still understand the game. And then they suddenly introduce pendulums, which essentially work as spell cards and monster cards at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had like dual face
Adventure.
cards, like, you know, for a while in Magic. Yeah, and then you have like
Adventures.
stuff with
Adventures.
Adventures, I think, really kicked off a really cool thing with like all the dual face cards now, stuff like Asika, stuff like Bergie, like everything that came out in Kaldheim,
Yep.
essentially. I also think this opens up a really fun flavor possibility for a set like a return to Shadowmoor or something,
Yeah.
in which, you know how like in one set they had the cards in one color, and then in the next set they were the same legendaries but with like it would be like their contrary like colors.
Twisted
Mhm.
version.
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
Like a twisted version of them. I think that would be possibly something really, really cool in like for future sets, right?
Well, we have Adventure that's coming in Baldur's Gate. Thank you to the leaks. Like,
Yeah.
it's confirmed.
I'm so glad they're coming back.
And it's coming back in the rifle set that should have been in the original standard set, adventuring, because you go on a fucking adventure. That's what you do in D&D. And I don't play D&D, and I know that
Yeah.
much. So it's like a huge oversight that it took them an extra year essentially to finally.
I think that was just a flavor oversight, though, not a.
True. It's a
like
flavor
I just feel like they didn't want to double back to adventure in the middle of like their standard rotation.
I guess so. Yeah.
And honestly, I personally do agree with that like design choice, if that was in fact like intentional, you know.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's the only reason why you wouldn't have included adventure in the first go. And I think that is what limited the first D&D set a lot, trying not to circle back to certain mechanics that they absolutely did not want them to you know, insert into standard.
Yeah. Like
And
the
that's
party
where, like, we
mechanic
have
and then the adventure mechanic would be, right?
Yes, party and adventure.
Yeah. Which
So
was
that's-
detriments, you know, like it could have been a better set, but it didn't make that much of an impact
Yes.
in terms of standard is concerned. Of course, it's still
Mhm.
like crazy, because I know people that don't even play Magic that bought a bunch of Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything else you guys want to add? You want to?
No, I think
That's
that's it. My major question was like, what mechanic was like? Oh, but yeah, but shards. I had forgotten entirely about shards. And
Yeah.
I really like that.
I
don't
like
think
shards.
I have like a straight answer to that question, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, because, you know, the more I play Magic, the more I sometimes feel like the denser it gets. A lot of times, once you
Yeah.
start diving into rules, once you start diving into everything, and sometimes I feel like it's almost like you have to pick what you're good at in Magic.
Mhm.
Sometimes when it comes to like a lot of the knowledge that you gain because of how complex it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I love most about the game, man.
It's cool, but it also comes with a downside that a lot of the mechanics of recent are very fitting of Arena, and that could be part of the problem. Like the introduction of stuff like
I believe so.
having a little dungeon on the side and having extra shit that's on the side. It's getting a little too complex, and I don't want to get to the point where it feels like I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh, where you have the leg summons and then you have the pendulums on the side and then you have a synchro and a fusion all in the same
Mhm.
board, because it's going to become a little too messy. It's not getting there yet. Like, I feel like there's still room before it gets really, really bad. But since they're pushing Arena so much and they're pushing mechanics that feel really good playing it on the client, but they still need to make the paper equivalent either way, it might get to a point that becomes a little messier than it's getting us to now. Like the dungeon thing was a little bit of like, damn, that's a little bit hard to keep track of, because if you're not like pendiente whatever, como que they could start moving the pieces, or the dice moves to the side and then you're like, oh, I don't remember what floor I was, god dang it. It's like it becomes extra shit in the table that generally you wouldn't need, but in the client it's great because it's just a little prompt that shows up and then disappears, and then you don't need to think about it again until it prompts up again, whatever. So I don't know, it's getting a little convoluted.
Actually,
it's still fine, but
this reminds me of like a conversation we had. I can't remember if this was like once we had already started the podcast, or when we like literally one of the conversations where we went like, hey, why don't we do a Magic podcast? Haha, that would be funny. And we just it was like a joke at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was a conversation we had about Wizards trying to make a Magic 2.0, essentially. I forgot exactly how it kicked off, but I remember that was one of the things that we brought up. It's like, is Magic trying to make, or is Magic in the process of making a Magic 2.0?
Yeah, a sequel to Magic.
With the whole, like a sequel to Magic, or just like in general, just a different, a quote unquote different game using the same IPs and ideas. Which is, I think that we brought that up once. It was on the announcement of Magic Universes Beyond, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Like that was like the first question we asked ourselves. Like, is this Magic 2.0? Is this stuff that and I feel like Wizards for a really long time has been trying to create not just like a new format, but a format that has like exclusive cards in it. But then like they didn't like Commander for I don't know, economic reasons, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And while they started supporting Commander, I still feel like there's got to be something. Like, I'm kind of hoping, I suppose, that there's more than just the fuck ups we take at face value at play, and that they're actually like learning from the mistakes that they're pulling. I feel like they have demonstrated that they've learned some things since, for example, Eldraine, at least on the mechanic side of things. But then they seem to experiment, let's put it that way, with other stuff that just each and every single time leaves us scratching our heads. Like, what is Wizards thinking about? For example, what we talked about today about like Bootlegger Stash and how it feels.
Yeah.
Some experiments are successes, some experiments are not.
Oh yeah, of course.
Definitely. That's exactly why it's an experiment.
So if we take that, then okay, the community, because as I've said, Mark Rosewater does not believe that Bootlegger Stash type effect is wrong in green.
Yeah.
The community, from what I've seen, a lot of people disagree.
Yeah.
So if the community says so, then maybe it's a problem. But then we go back to how we were talking about shards. The community really didn't say anything about it. Was it even a success?
Yeah.
But it's a really good card. It's a really good mechanic. But then again, it was only one card that did it. So,
Yeah.
It's up in the air.
It's a wait and see if they implement it again, which I think they will. I mean, if they build the mechanic, I'm pretty sure it's something they can go back to eventually for whatever they deem fit based on the storyline that they're going through in the planes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, that's another question I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry, I keep like extending this every time I get a question, right? But like, do you think that R&D as of late, because of having to switch so much, like before, let me give some background here, right? So before, we had Magic and it was 3 sets in a block, right? We used to divide Magic in blocks. And then we went down to 2, and now we are down to 1. Now, I like the fact that going down to 1 set kind of opens up like a bunch of new possibility for like creativity and stuff like that. That's really cool, because it constantly keeps, I suppose that like, R&D and like, the Wizard staff on their feet. They got to be working on new stuff constantly. But at the same time, I feel like it's easy to like burn out or feel like you're not getting enough of what you have to put into a set, or like into a block in this case, for there to be like, enough support for mechanics and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
That's why, for example, to be able to essentially complete some cycles, or to complete like certain like mechanics, you have to release another set. But then when you try to release like those mechanics, you realize that if you have to think if it's flavorful or not.
Yeah.
So I think you're the one who's made the argument before that you kind of hate how Wizards sometimes works in terms of like, oh, like they did it for flavor because like, am I correct in that? Like you have mentioned that before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you just kind of hate like the flavor, not because the flavor is bad, but because sometimes a lot of their the development part of their research and development goes into making cards that sometimes get taken over more for flavor than what they actually do in the game.
Yeah.
But keeping all these things in mind, right?
Mhm.
Do you think that just releasing one set instead of having like 3 sets in a block makes it so that R&D kind of burns out? What's that word? Like they have to. They don't have enough time to like really flesh out a set really well in terms of both flavor and like game mechanics in general.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that it's one block sets. I liked it when it was 3. I liked it the old way.
I actually liked it when it was 2.
Okay, 2 is fair. I can have 2.
Because think about it: a Battle for Zendikar and then Oath of the Gatewatch. You get the start of a story and a satisfying end. Because I started playing when Khans of Tarkir came out. It was technically M15, but like Khans of Tarkir came out, and it was Khans. And next year with Fate Reforged, and then Dragons of Tarkir.
Yeah.
And like the story happens, so they introduce you to the plane, they introduce you part of the story, then the story happens, and then a conclusion to the story, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they like 3 block set is
It's
bit
too much.
too much of an extension for a proper set. Because what do you think about like just now that I use Favorite Forge as a example?
Yeah.
What happened in Favorite Forge? Lore wise, like there's a lot happened, but what cards came out that impacted the format?
The fetches, right?
Fetches came out in Khans.
But it's not the cons, no?
Oh,
No.
Fate Reforged, wasn't it literally
Reforged.
just like Eugene?
Right.
Monastery Mentor,
Yeah.
Ugin.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So that's an entire set just for those 2 cards, basically.
So
Everything else is just like cards for flavor and story and for draft. While Dragons of Tarkir actually have not only meaningful cards, but strong cards, and they concluded the story. Now, when you look at Battle for Zendikar only has 2 sets. The block was 2 blocks. You have the start of the story and a meaningful end. No filler in the no filler in the middle.
Yeah.
Because when you look at let's take a second example. Let's look at Return to Ravnica. You got Return to
Dragon's
Ravnica.
Maze.
You got Gate Crash, and you got Dragon's Maze.
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Dragon's Maze is the middle
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, and one of the worst sets of all time.
It's considered one of the worst sets in Magic,
Yeah.
and it's a middle set. That's if I'm not mistaken. I can.
CC, I'm pretty sure.
The middle child is always the problem.
It always is. Yeah, you're not wrong. I could agree. I just never. I was very adamant of 1 block sets unless it's something like Dominaria. Whenever it's like a big set or like something impactful lore wise, I am okay with that. But I can make the compromise that maybe 2 block sets are the way to go. Because when I start thinking about like what was Kaladesh and Age of the Revolt, when it was Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan, when it was the 2 guild sets, the Ravnica Legions and Guilds of Ravnica, there were 2 block sets. They have the opportunity of fleshing out the color spectrum. It can be like, because now, because of having single block sets, you have a Strixhaven, which has an incomplete cycle. You have an Ikoria that even though it was completed in New Capenna, instead of dinosaurs, we have stupid mobsters. So now, like, triomes are triomes, and then just castles and mansions and freaking courtyards. And it's weird when it's so obvious that it should have been Ikoria, and then we visit Ikoria in the next set, or in a year or two, we visit the other side of Ikoria.
Yeah. Again, I feel like two sets would be like.
Do you not think they're doing that though? Because when you think of Innistrad last year, and when you think of Brothers War and Dominaria United, that seems to be the 2 block sets that you're mentioning.
Yes.
Yeah, but that seems to. But we're only doing that like this year. We're only doing that on return to something sets, and I guess not even the D&D set, because the D&D set isn't the standard, so we're not counting that. And
no, that doesn't count. Yeah.
So
exactly. So I would like it to be a pattern with with nostalgia sets, but honestly, I would just prefer it if we just went back to good old fashioned like two set blocks.
2 block sets. Yeah.
I feel like it gives R&D enough space to work. And to like test a few things out here and there. Yeah, like flesh out the mechanics, and also from a storytelling perspective, I prefer a 3-part story, but that's just like a personal thing, right? But honestly, it's totally fine to just have the two sets. Like it feels good, like JP was mentioning. Like it really does. It's just a meaningful start and a meaningful end, and you don't have to like do the Naruto in the middle.
There's also the fact of the commanders. Mutate is a thing in Ikoria, but it's never been a thing again. If they did a 2-block set in Ikoria with enough mutate cards and enough mutate legendaries, mutate would be a good mechanic for that one commander that cares about mutate. And
that's the thing. We didn't even get a mutate commander.
We did.
We did.
We did.
Oh, we did?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. We got legendaries, but we didn't get like a commander product. From
Yes.
We did. That's the whole.
Yes.
This is
never mind.
My
I totally
rage has
forgot
started
about that.
since Ikoria, because when they
I
started
totally
doing,
forgot about those things. Wow,
that's
they were
because
so
I get upset when the commander products are tied to the standard sets, because since they're 1-block sets, they introduce crazy ass mechanics that they're never gonna touch again, like stupid mutate.
So again,
Gotcha.
now
I just remembered. Oh damn! Wow.
We got Blitz now. The Blitz is okay because Henzi gives Blitz to other cards in your hand.
Yes.
But why couldn't that be for Renar in Kaldheim? That cares about foretell cards that'll only come out in Kaldheim, and there's so little amount of foretell cards. There's not enough to justify
to ever make a deck. Yep.
It was like,
So and it happens to a lot of those commanders. That's why I get upset. Like the mutate commanders, they were going to be a thing. The only one of the recent ones that became a thing was, I think, Prosh. No, it's not Prosh. The one that has that plays with the treasures and can cast stuff from exile. He came in in Forgotten Realms. Prosper, sorry. Yeah, because he prospers. That thing, he's broken, but only because there's so much. Because it was based on treasures, which is a thing.
He's based on casting from exile. He makes treasures. But.
Exactly. But but he's based on casting from exile, which is a thing that's happening concurrently a lot as of late. Yeah. Right? But if it was like a specific thing where like, it ventures into a dungeon, and if you venture enough times, you get to exile a card, it would have been trash. No one will be able to play it because it's just tied to the one thing. So now I would rather be, like you said, a 2-block set, because that's my ire with these things, that you have these sets tied to these standard sets, which is okay, fine. I don't mind having more commander product. The more the merrier. That's cool. I'll buy the cards that I want, or I'll buy the commander if I like it that much. I'll buy it. That's not a problem. Problem is, the face cards come with mechanics that are tied to a block that will probably never get revisited, like stupid foretell, like stupid mutate, like stupid whatever. Because they always bring these new crazy ideas, and they don't have enough time to flesh them out, and they're too crazy to do them again. So then they never revisit them, and then they're like, well, there's that cute little Azorius card that foretells. It doesn't foretell everything; it just foretells like the first thing or whatever. Like,
can we talk about the missed opportunity? Like, I know I probably brought this up like 3 times already, but like the missed opportunity with the black card that just simply you pay 2 and you foretell a card.
That should have been a legendary creature, and that should have been a couple of colors, so you can do that with anything.
That would have been perfect, because you have stuff that complements the mechanic. I feel like for a lot of the mechanics that they've released this way, if you just had one creature that would enable it, like a commander that just enables the mechanic innately, and you give it enough support within the set, this would all be fine.
That's
Like you wouldn't have
exactly
completely memorable commanders in the standard sets. Like it just happened right now. Like
exactly what I'm saying with Henzi.
Yeah.
Henzi gives
Henzi?
blitz. Henzi gives blitz to cards in your hand.
Exactly.
right.
And that's fine, right? That's better. That's better than nothing.
So now you
Exactly.
can have blitz things, but he gives it to your cards.
Mhm.
So
So
it's
forever and ever,
it's-
it's going to be good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. So like I would be fine with that. If they, I mean, they're clearly just having their cake and eating it too, because clearly they're doing 1 block sets, and then at the end of the year or towards the third and fourth quarter of the year, that's when they're doing the double like the 2 block sets, because last year they did it with Innistrad, and now apparently they seem to be doing it with Dominarian Brothers War. It's a
This
cool
last one
compromise.
was a special thing.
Sure, but it seems to be. Well, I'm gonna assume that for now it seems like a pattern. It might not be. Might be the next year we still have single block sets. They're clearly still
2 is a
experimenting.
coincidence. 3
True.
would be a pattern.
There we
So,
go. Fine. We'll have
Next
to wait
year.
till next year.
Next
True.
year.
Next year. If there's next year and we do like I don't know what's like an old set we haven't done. What's the one that the Lorwyn?
Shards of
We do
Alara,
Lorwyn?
so we can finally get our Lord Shards.
Sure.
Or our
But we did
shards.
shards. We technically did
I know.
shards already. So it would be, I would say
Yeah.
Lorwyn, because it's a set that not all people remember, and that's what a lot of
Yes.
people quit.
That would be
So it
that would
could
be
be
amazing,
nostalgic.
dude.
Or
Amazing.
Meriden coming back to finish like restore Phyrexia.
But the
The
problem,
Yeah, I mean
Resurrection
that is like the story we've been like kind of try to like pitch here for the longest time.
but Mirrodin
Like
is a lot of
either the
artifacts.
restoration of Phyrexia or
Yeah,
like seeing some
Meriden
kind
is-
of like stuff
Meriden
with
is artifact
Yawgmoth.
based. Yeah,
It's not gonna happen.
Let's not.
I mean,
do Meriden.
I'd be happy, but I know that
No,
Brothers
no.
War is gonna be artifact based. It's basically
I-
obvious.
I have Osgear, and
Sure.
he is built, and he is fine. There's no need for more artifacts.
Oh,
anymore.
my Urza needs more artifacts. It needs to bring more delicious, sweet, zero costed, add 3 mana and no downside cards. I need more of those. I need a little Mox. I need a little Mox that says Urza's Mox. It's a legendary artifact that reads, if you have Urza in play, you get to play it for free, and you produce 3 blue pips every turn. I need something like
Then you get that, and I get Osgear's artifact. You just pump Osgear till someone dies.
Okay, that's fair. You know what? I'll take it.
Fair.
That's fine. That's fine.
Zero
Yeah.
mana artifact
Of course.
equipment. It just says
Yeah.
kill target player.
Wizards, don't be cowards. You know what? The box stopper for the Brothers War should just be a Black Lotus. Just give it to everyone. It's okay.
Let's go.
Just
Yeah.
let's just do it. Just do
Yeah,
it.
hell yeah.
It's the box stopper. That's it. Just do it. Just
Hell yeah.
don't
Make
be
it
cowards,
the
Wizards.
hottest selling set of
yes,
like Magic
of all
history.
time.
Let's go.
Of all fucking
Yeah.
time.
Get sued. You're gonna have so much money that it won't matter.
Oh, it won't matter. You can slap me in the face.
That's
with other
actually Giga Brain.
exactly.
Yeah, dude.
Oh
Hold
my
up, like-
God.
Let me talk to Hasbro real quick. I'm gonna make me the
Yeah.
head of Magic in a minute.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or just make masterpieces again, which I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a thing in the Dominaria set. They're just gonna make
No, masterpieces are just gonna be
Masterpieces
your
again.
secret layer, bro.
No, but it's gonna be a
No.
masterpiece akin to what they
No.
did in Strixhaven, and that would be dope. If they do it like Strixhaven, that'd be cool. In the vein
Okay,
of
okay.
Strixhaven,
I could.
where it's
I'll
not
bite.
like a lottery card, it happens in every booster. I think that's fair. I think
Yeah,
that's fine.
instead of
That
just
would be
making it
cool.
part of the list.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of stupid list or whatever, just be like every
I do.
little booster.
I do gotta admit though, it'd be really, really fun if the boosters, if like set boosters, for example, were like list card, like this, like special card, like archive card. Let's call it that for now, right?
Yeah.
And then like the rest of your normal like set booster, right?
Mhm.
I think it'd be really fun. Just make like guarantee you get a list card, even if like considering the pull rate for list cards and mythic list cards, like at that, they should just do that.
And
It doesn't have to necessarily increase like a pull rate or anything, but as long as I'm like, I feel like I'm getting something like a little extra that I don't know, it just feels nice.
I agree. And considering the fact that the list usually doesn't have anything too egregious anyways. It's not like you're gonna pull. Yeah, like there might be a $30 or $40 card you might pull from the list, but that's rare. Most of the time, you're gonna get like a jank uncommon that from fucking, I don't know, Legends. I know Legends doesn't count, but I'm just saying it's gonna be like from an old ass set. You're not even gonna be like, what the fuck do I do with this 4 or 5 that it's
They gotta fix that list, man.
yeah, they do
They
fix it
honestly
every
should.
set. Every set
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
tweak it. They do tweak
Yeah,
it.
they tweak it, and in a lot of ways, it's slowly been getting better,
Yes.
quote unquote. But I don't know. I feel like I just want them to eliminate some commons and uncommons from there. And if you do have commons and uncommons, make them things that are actually useful. Like, it's not like Wizards like didn't know what commander players, what standard players, modern players, whatever find useful.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like if you gave people even more incentive for them to like say, I can buy a booster box and I can be sure that I can kind of pull anything for any format. I think that in general would just make their product more desirable, especially with that 11% increase coming up, man.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, either that or for the love of God, just increase the quality of your cardboard.
Ha.
Like, if I can't have one, at least give me the other. Like, that's the least I would like if you're going to increase your price 11%.
Yeah, I feel like that's not gonna happen. So maybe the list is more plausible than them fixing their stupid cardboard at this point. But I think the problem with the list too is, I swear to God, they just have like a weird, like, I'm pretty sure they go to like a randomizer website where they have all the cards from Thrones Magic's history that aren't on reserve list. They have a little tab for that, and they click boop, generate, and it's just random ass card. They'll be like, oh, that's the one. They just double check to make sure it's not like a super expensive card, but for the most part, be like, yeah, it's fine. Just put that one. Okay, they click it like 60 times, and then they replace 30 cards, and then they just put 30 from that little pool of cards, and that's it. And that's the list. I swear, because it's so random.
Oh no, I'm at Scryfall. I hit random card.
Right?
Let's put Run Ashore.
Exactly.
A card that was printed in Kaldheim.
Exactly. And they've done that.
Yeah.
That's the joke. The joke is that there's like literally cards that came out like less than a year ago, and they're already on the list for no
And
reason.
they're not even good cards. That's the problem.
But that's
If they
what I'm
were
saying.
a useful card, I'm like, okay, whatever, it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's just like, I don't know, like a Llanowar Elf. I mean, Llanowar Elf is great and all, but actually, no, Llanowar Elf would be like one of the most useful things on that
exactly.
list.
At least
What am I
none of
talking
those is
about?
still useful. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like it's just, oh man.
No, it's like
I
JP said.
I can't even think of a useless card right now.
Like, I'm pretty sure they do exactly what JP said. They went to Scryfall, they hit random, and the first card they see, as long as it's not like a super expensive $300
like
card.
A 5-mana 2/2 with no abilities. Oh, that's your new list card. Let's go.
Yes, and I've seen that shit happen, because if you see the list, there's some cards that are too jank. They're way too jank. They wouldn't function anywhere, and they're just there for no fucking reason. Because there's no. It's because they haven't established what's their reasoning behind the list.
Exactly.
Makes me think that it's just purely random. It has to be, because I try every couple of sets I see the list, because they do the article actually showcasing you what are the cards in the list for that set, and I look at them and they're just like, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no thematical thing. It's not like, for example, let's say in Commander Legends, supposedly, let's assume there was in the first Commander Legends, let's assume there was a list, right? And if there was a bunch of pirates, I'd be like, oh, okay, so you're complimenting the pirates. No, there's never any rhyme or reason of the list cards to any of the sets. It's just random ass crap they just put there.
I'm biased with Commander Legends because I actually pulled. I think I actually pulled the scroll rack, but
I pulled every good mythic from that box. I bought 2, and it was beautiful. I have my jeweled Lotus there. So I mean, I'm always gonna be happy of Commander Legends 1.
so good.
So yeah, but yeah. Anything else, guys, or is that it?
Don't you want a Twisted Justice? Target player sacrifices a creature, and you draw cards equal to that power for 6 mana at sorcery speed.
Great, that's great.
Wait, what?
Nothing.
Excuse me?
Jokes.
Exactly.
Jokes. I was hitting random in Scryfall.
Yeah, and exactly, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they do. That's always the stupid joke. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. It's never good. It's never good cards. Rarely, if ever, are they good. So guys, I think that's enough for today. I hope that everyone was listening,
Enough trash
having a
talking
good
with just for one
time.
night.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. So, okay, Chris, where can the people find you?
Well, you guys will soon find me once more on my Twitch, Chris Cross 13, and you can find me here at the Cardboard Cave Podcast. JP, where can we find you, my guy?
You can find me here at the Cardboard Cave Podcast. But Orengo, our
Yes.
director, sir,
Yes, sir.
where can they find you?
Well, you guys, you can find me here with you guys while we talk about sweet, sweet, delicious, yummy, yummy cardboard. You can find me at The Movie Guy. You can find me at Cinemas Podcast, which is my podcast, which I talk about movies and stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Cinemas Podcast. I do a couple reviews. You can find me with John at Subtitles Required as well. You can also find me at X-Ray Richboard and Cine Nerds. Before I go, I want to remind you guys that we do have a little sponsor, is Ultra Sleeves, right? So Ultra Sleeves, if you put in your order, Cardboard Cave, you get 5% off from your purchase. Ultra Sleeves are amazing little thin sleeves in which you can put different variations of cards that you own. And look at these. These are like beautiful arcane signets. For people who can't see it, I'm showing you like alternate styles to the arcane signet. You slip on up that little card. You can put it for your staples. You can put it for your commanders. There's a bunch of different variations. There's a bunch of artists that do a lot of altars. Every little sleeve, I believe, is $6 a pop. And with our code, Cardboard Cave podcast, you can have a 5% discount, and that'll help us a lot with our channel. It'll help us grow. It'll help us, get more income potentially to improve and bring you better sweet content. So,
but more importantly, it's gonna make your Magic deck look sick as fuck.
Exactly. I'm gonna eventually buy a couple of those sleeves,
I'm gonna
at least
buy
for
some,
commanders. So I want to see how they look. So I'm definitely gonna try out the little code eventually.
Definitely. Yeah. I got a new commander for Commander Night, so I'm super excited to see when we can next showcase those sleeves.
Awesome. I am definitely not going to play with your new commander deck. I'm just going to avoid you like the plague. That's great. So awesome. You. Good to know.
You don't even know what it is. Come on.
I don't care. I just know that it's going to do a bunch of nothing. That's usually how it goes.
No, it does a lot of something.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot of nothing.
It does a lot of nothing. Great. See? Justified.
That's not true.
Exactly. Vindicated. Okay. Awesome. So I hope everyone has a good night. Again, we'll see you in the next one. And, if you want to buy your Ultra Sleeves, go ahead and check them. And this is a quick word from our other sponsor, the LGS that we love to go to, Capitan Granuja.
Hey geeks, do you love comics, collectibles, and TCG? Well, here at Cardboard Cave, we have the place for you. Pass by Capitan Granuja Comics and Games and find all your favorite geeky items there. Look for them at Facebook or Instagram or call them at 787-659-7003. A store blessed by Nicole.